Hey there, everyone. I have the extraordinary joy to be here with Vinay Shukla, who is the extraordinary director, speaking of extraordinary, of the film While We Watched. And this is an utterly gripping film that is at the heart of the fight for democracies all over the world right now. And in India, almost all broadcasters are under siege by the government to promote the government's point of view. And what Vinay did was to stay with this extraordinary journalist, Ravish Kumar, through the shifts in his newsroom as the government put pressure on everyone for them to stop independent reporting. So I feel an incredible urgency in this moment to talk about this film, because I feel like this situation is sort of the tip of the spear for all of us. And people like Modi and Putin are creating templates that work, and they're going to work in more places in the world unless we find ways of resistance. So while this is like an incredibly urgent political thriller in many ways, it's also an incredible portrait of people struggling with how to embody their conviction. So Vinay, I know that you had incredible admiration for Ravish Kumar going into this as a person who, and maybe I see you're looking and your face is thinking about that, but I think that that's a question. But for me, it's a portrait of him as it is as much of you, of two people struggling to figure out what to do in this moment, what to do. And I would even bring it back to the context of our independent documentary journalism world, our independent documentary world, because we're trying to, we're on the Zoom talking to each other in order to somehow get people to find their way through the noise to something significant, which is so difficult in the world that we're living in. It's, in the 7 years since I made Camera Person, it's a world of difference in terms of who's watching what, why, how do you find your way to material. So let me just start with your relationship to Ravish, because that feels important.
Thank you, firstly, Kirsten. This is quite surreal for me because, till a couple of years ago, I was writing you fan emails after having seen your film. And
very polite fan emails.
Yeah, and you always replied that I took great respite and maybe misused that privilege to keep in touch with you. So I'm very, very, very much in awe right now to be speaking to you. Thank you for being kind with me and for being here. With regards to sort of my relationship with Ravish, I wasn't so much in admiration of him as I was almost perplexed by what he seemed to be doing. His journalism, I have never seen a practice of journalism so something that takes shape every day, and something that is something that is coming together. Like whenever I see a Ravish report, a broadcast of his, I can see different moving parts of it. And there is some joy in that. As somebody who appreciates details, as somebody who appreciates processes, whenever I'm watching a report by Ravish, I can see smaller parts within a sort of larger beast or a larger argument that he's framing, and I find that curious. To discover those nooks and corners in what he's doing. At the same time, his larger sort of approach was driven by such despair and such moral despair that I was very. It perplexed me. I was wondering, who is this news anchor who is constantly asking his audiences to stop watching TV. He would scold his audiences. You could see that he wasn't happy with his audience or with the government. And when people are usually in that place, they try and conceal it. He was very bad at concealing it in what he was saying out on air. So it was in terms of films, he was resembling a tired protagonist, a protagonist who wanted to give up on society, on everything around him. And I had made a film before this, which was about, a period of idealism in my life, of like, somebody coming and wanting to start a new system and shake everything up. This film is about somebody who's in their 40s, who's in their 50s, in pursuit of idealism. I feel like, I'm still a decade or two away, but in my head, I feel like I'm already there. And somewhere, and that's what attracted me to that conflict of somebody in their 40s, in their 50s. What's the pursuit of idealism for them feel like? What does it feel like?
Yeah, I love that you're using the word perplexed. And I think you also, obviously this like question of how and why is this person using the platform to be transparent about like those sort of wake up feeling that is in him. The thing that you're also reminding me is Ravish is hilarious. And this movie is also a movie that allows all kinds of comedy, some of it very bittersweet. But let's just sort of dig deeper into the idea of craft, because I really do want to talk about the beautiful observational work that you did filming this movie. We really feel like we are inside with people, and yet the thing that I was thinking about a lot, as the camera person that I am, what's going on in your head as you're filming and as you're watching sort of colleague after colleague be put in a position to choose between their livelihood and staying with the station and abandoning Ravish. So I'm just sort of take us inside your head filming and how easy or how hard that was to stay quiet, the struggle, the internal struggle while you were doing this incredible observational work.
So there's two sides of this. One is, see what's happening when you walk into the film, you walk with a certain morality, a certain moral consciousness, and it reflects in the daily choices you make with regards to, firstly, having chosen this newsroom and then choosing your characters and where you point your camera at. And secondly, there is the pursuit of craft, right? When you're on ground. What lenses are you using? How close are you getting? How are you building your access every day? How much access are you getting? I was once trying. So my team is very young. It comprised of people in their mid-20s, and very often, I was explaining to them about what we are doing and how we have to build relationships with people on camera, off camera. And my co-cinematographer, at the end, somebody asked him, say that, how was your relationship with people, and did you become very good friends with them? And he said, initially we would only become good friends to the point that it allowed us better access. And it was a moment wherein I was like, okay, so that seems very, very mechanical, right? Wherein you're constantly figuring out your relationship with people and how it can lead to better access. But that's the filmmaking part of you. That's the brave, that's the person who is there in a newsroom, wherein everybody around you understands the power of the camera. Usually when you're shooting a documentary, you have to explain to people what a documentary is, where it's going to go out. But when you're shooting in a newsroom, everybody understands the power of the camera and how one wrong image can misrepresent them, can show them in a light which is going to be conflicting for them. So it was very, very difficult to figure individual personal relationships access, craft, and the negotiation between all of these, because people were going through a lot. We shot an election, and during an election, of course, everything is a very heightened stakes game. At the same time, people were being laid off in this newsroom. They weren't being paid enough. They were working in extremely meager resources. So there was a lot of emotional fatigue. There was a lot of sort of trauma that people were reeling from as of around us. My note to my team was to try and capture the inner lives of these people, and that's very abstract, but that is literally, most people very rarely will tell you, I'm not feeling good on camera, right? But that there is something amiss. I remember on the first day of the shoot, we had seen a cake being cut, and every time somebody left in the organization because they had been laid off, or because they couldn't continue, they would cut a cake, and it was a very bittersweet sort of event wherein everybody gets together, cuts a cake, bids farewell. And that's a place wherein it reminded me, and I would keep telling people again and again, it helped me understand the spirit of the film, that this film is like the Titanic, but it's not about Jack and Rose. It's about the musicians who decided to stay back and go out playing their violins. So the film is ultimately about that spirit, and that is what we were trying to chase with our craft and with whatever we understood about documentary filmmaking.
Oh, I'm so moved that you were working with these young people in a way that was allowing them to go deeper into the complexity and sort of investigate the problem of attempting to make a film when people understand the relationships of power. You just took me right back to Guantanamo when I was filming with Laura Poitras on The Oath, and I was filming a New York Times reporter, and he was sort of, I had his permission to film, and he was in an argument with his editor, and I was at an angle behind him, and I knew in my gut, like, yes, in the big picture, I have permission, but this is so high stakes that I must be very careful. And then I just got a little, too in the movie and what shot would look a little bit better. And I left the meaning of the stakes for him, and I moved maybe like a quarter of an inch, and he saw me out of his eye line, and he just exploded, and he said, "That's it. You can't film me anymore." And it was like, I think that what you're talking about is it's like a hairline. We're like balancing on this tightrope of trust that one gains, but one can sort of lose at any moment. And people want to protect their inner selves. They're not in a newsroom to reveal their inner selves. They're in a newsroom to fight for their craft, to do investigative journalism. So I talk a little bit more for you in relation to Ravish, like sort of walking that tightrope of,
I completely agree with you in that, and I'll be honest with you, Kirsten, when I'm hearing you speak about that moment, right, wherein you go like, should I shoot a little more? Should I? It's you don't know the answer, right?
No.
You're literally like at times I have taken risks, and they have paid off so beautifully that people will see it in a film and be extremely moved. But only filmmakers and my team, people who have taken risks, will understand the moral call that they had to make to shooting that. And when it doesn't work, it looks very ugly, right? Over a period of time, I know something for myself is that I would much prefer to stop shooting than somebody else asks me to stop shooting. And that's just a principle I sort of follow, wherein I have literally spent 2 years shooting this film. And on many occasions, I had to, I put my camera down before anybody asked me to put the camera down, simply because in my head, it's usually, I know that this person doesn't want to see me like this. And in the long term, it's going to affect the access that I'm going to get. So I am basically gambling or betting that I will have an opportunity to shoot something like this in the future, or maybe I won't get this at all. But I need to risk not shooting this. And on other occasions, you take the gamble and you go like, okay, I'm going to shoot, but you're shooting in a manner wherein you're looking inside your camera, but you're also trying to keep eye contact with everybody around to try and show them that you're equally invested in this. You're not looking to catch them, at some sort of a weak, vulnerable moment. With regards to Ravish, it's a complex relationship. There is no straight, of course, this guy, he's a news journalist. He's aware of the camera, right? You can't ever be completely sure that, oh, this person doesn't care about the camera at all. And of course, on many days, it seems like he doesn't care. But do I have the complete answer that, oh, this person just doesn't care about the camera anymore and he's his complete authentic self on the camera? I don't. But I'll tell you what I know. I am pursuing a film and I am looking for a cinematic truth or a film that's in my head. So when I am looking for material that almost services what I am going for, right? I have a basic responsibility that I'm not lying to people, that I'm not adversely misrepresenting them, and that my picture more or less reflects what people are like in real life. Those it's a very loosely held together scenario in my head. I am hoping that the amount of time I'm spending with people, like I'm spending literally 2 years shooting with them, over a period of 2 years, you more or less understand who these people are. And then if I can bring that understanding to my films, I think I am satisfied with that. That's the sort of code that I am pursuing. I don't necessarily, because, I'm sure there'll be people who know Ravish who will watch this film and find it not truly representative of him. And they're right. People should be allowed multiple representations. It's a privilege. Not many of us have that privilege to be seen in the eyes of many people. And of course, like,
it's such a beautiful way of saying that. That is so true.
so, and I'm saying both of us, like, for example, your work has had such incredible value in my life. And it's been written about by so many people, right? So that's the privilege at times of being seen by more people, or being interpreted by more people. And then I have also met people who you have mentored and who speak so passionately about things that you have done for them, or the relationship that they share with you. And that's a very rare place. I hope more people have that for themselves.
I love this wish, and
Mhm.
this wish, you know, and the wish, it's so interesting in the context of us talking about like how many images there are in the world and how to find um, things that actually value the complexity of
Yeah.
our world. And when I think about you and filming this film and then editing it and the kinds of ways you're thinking about your craft, the sort of dynamic happening between you and Ravish throughout the film is he's not just aware of the camera. He's aware of the choices you are making. He's noticing how many hours you spend there. He's noticing the relationship you have with your younger team. And those relationships of a leader to a team is the drama that he is in. And in some ways, I think you each earned mutual respect from each other. And it feels in the film, when I think about the film, besides sort of being in the grip of watching it, which is like, it's a really gripping watch. What stays with me is sort of part of this deep loneliness when we attempt to be true to complex moral ideas, and how hard that is actually in reality. And what I love about the film is that you give us the context of reality of how hard it is to attempt to be a decent person in this world, to stand up to abusive power. That's like incredibly hard work. And you're just interested in what are the details of that? What are the stakes of that? And can we do it in community? And what happens when the community, that power starts to break community apart and we're left almost alone? So talk to me a little bit about loneliness for a moment in relation to working this hard in such tough stakes.
I mean, firstly, that's very well put, Kirsten. The details of decency is what this film is pursuing. But I think, I edited this film during COVID, and all of us went through our own struggles. A lot of, I think, filmmaking is or not filmmaking, I think authorship, the pursuit of authorship is fairly lonely, right? And I came into this film very, very uncertain. The film that I had made before this, it did well. It catapulted me into some attention. I had co-directed it with Khushbu, and I learned an incredible amount with her. But I came into this film as a solo director, right? She's the producer on the film. I came into this film wondering if I am a filmmaker, because the first film did so well that I almost began to feel that I had lucked out. And I came into this film really wondering if the larger ideals I hold dear in life, if they are relevant anymore. With regards to what was happening in politics around me, what was happening on TV. I was single when I came into this film. It was a very small crew. So I felt, pretty singular in terms of trying to find solutions and answers for myself in my journey. It was like bushwhacking through a sea of doubts and financial and emotional challenges, right? But I remember this one time during the shoot, I was, when I saw the institution fall apart slowly, uh, the idea of institutions falling apart, it was very heartbreaking, and it appealed to me, because at that point I remember just telling myself that I want to make a film about the cost of the pursuit of idealism. This loneliness is one cost, but there is so much that we go through, and I wanted to recognize that cost, in all the despair that I may be facing and people around me face, and not just filmmakers. I keep saying that people make extraordinary choices in very ordinary lives. They choose to take care of a sick parent. They choose to have a baby. They choose to give up a career. They choose to pursue whatever goals they have. These are extraordinary choices that you don't quite necessarily see for their heroism, and they require daily work. And I wanted to make a film, I realized, that recognizes that work and underlines it. It may not necessarily salute it, it may not pivot it to international attention, but just underline it. Because I think there is beauty in the daily toil that all of us put ourselves through in the pursuit of whatever it is that we are going for. I think there is beauty to that. Like, I hope that I see it in those around me, and I hope that people see it in me. So I wasn't sure if my film would be great. I still I would like to believe, I think it's like, I like the film, but I don't know if it's a great film or not, right? But I really, at one point, I was like, I wanted to reflect all the things that I feel very drawn towards. So the film is more, for me, it's me trying to get closer to the ideas that I hold dear in life. Of course, there's a larger political vessel, journalistic news drama, character, Ravish, cinematic craft, all of that is there. But I am driven forward by empathy and so many other things that I spoke in this conversation about. And I hope the film leaves a deeper churning in people about those values.
Well, I can affirm that it did that in me. And I think this love and respect for the private struggles of each of us is just alive in your film. But also this struggle for like to make meaning, to is there with you, both you and Ravish, and you're sort of mirrors to each other in a certain way. And I am sustained always in some ways by what we are given when we engage deeply in the craft, and we sort of put ourselves on the line in these very small ways over time, and those things start to have a cumulative effect of deep meaning and deep expression of our values. I just can't tell you enough how much it matters what you've done. I mean, you've created primary evidence for all of us of what's happened and what's happening now in India. But I do believe that what you've sent us a message from the future. And I think we are all full of feeling about what the future, the challenges the future poses for us. And what you are saying to us with this film is that, it's not necessarily that we're on the Titanic. We don't know that. We can't know that yet. But what we do know is that we're trying to exist in the world with respect and care for people we know, people we don't know. How do we do that? That's hard to figure out. And the figuring it out together, it's part of what cinema offers us. Is a way of practicing all of those questions, living all of those questions, and then the evidence is there for others. So I'm just, profoundly grateful for the hard work of everyone in the newsroom, everyone on your team, for the loneliness and doubt that you have endured and that you will endure on behalf of being in it with love and compassion on behalf of all of us, as well as on behalf of yourself. So you and I are going to continue our conversation for the rest of our lives. But for those of you who are watching this, just know, if you're watching this, you're in the conversation with us, with our films, with the future. And, what we want in so many ways, Vinay, right, is evidence of people doing the daily work of trying to live with both compassion and aspiration for meaning.
Yeah, and I think it's a time wherein all of us, I remember just feeling very, I don't know, I wasn't, one of the reasons why I made this film was that I felt there was a younger version of me, 12-year-old version of me, 15-year-old version of me out there who didn't quite agree with everything that's going on. And that person needs to be told that they are not alone. So I think all of us need our hands held. And I hope that this film or this conversation somewhere can hold hands with people who need it.
Oh, well, I want to hold hands with the 12-year-old self of you. Well, to all the really wise 11-year-old and 12-year-old souls, all of us, we dedicate this conversation.
To all the arrogant, to the arrogant 11-year-olds. That's what I
Yes.
want. Oh man. Thank you
Vinay,
You're the best.
oh, you're the best. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for being a part of this.
Thank you. Thank you.